Okay. So while we're waiting for others to show up live, I my one question is I know you've said specifically Pinterest has helped you grow your email list.
Hmm.
So then the links you use in your pins, do they go to blog posts, episodes? Does it vary? But do
Good
all of those
question.
things it goes to have something they can download and give their email for?
Okay, so it's kind of like an all of the above situation, but I will say most of the time, so Pinterest likes it. Hi, Andrea. I'm an Andrea
Hi.
too. That's cute. Um, but I go by Andy.
Oh, we got
With
Super Kate coming.
Pinterest, you
Sorry, I already dove in and started asking your questions while we were waiting for people to show up live.
but it's okay. We can, yeah, it's fine. If you have a question or want me to repeat, I don't care. So with Pinterest, once you have your website connected to it, the more that you can have pins that go back to your website, the better, just because Pinterest is like, oh, you own that? I will send more
Hmm.
people your way. So like I have a blog post about my freebie, and so that's usually if there's a pin that's specifically about my freebie, I'll just send them to that blog post. Um, and truly every episode that I do talks about either a freebie or like a low ticket offer that I have. And
Mm.
so in a way, like every pin goes back to a freebie in some way, but
Okay.
sometimes it's an episode that leads to a freebie. I guess you
Yeah.
could also call episodes freebies because, like, here we
It's
are.
yeah,
But,
it's free
like,
content.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
That is
But to
true.
get them
In
on
a
your email
way,
list,
that's funny. I haven't really thought about it. In a way, our podcasts are freebies. It is
yeah,
something that they get value from and then they choose to click to go to something else of ours, maybe.
yes,
Interesting. Okay.
So, if I can just jump in. So, if you're
Yeah.
sending to
yeah.
your podcast episode, it's better if it's a blog post or a page on your website where the podcast is rather than, say, your like Apple podcast or something
Right.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect world. I would send it to something that you own, because then you get the traffic for it and and Pinterest likes it better. But
Right.
if you don't have a blog post currently, you can send it. My favorite podcast, like internet player, is Pocket Cast, so that's where I send it. Like if I'm like,
Mm.
this week is not a blog post week, I am too tired, I'll just do two next week. I usually send them to Pocket Casts or YouTube, depending on how I'm feeling at the moment. But
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I
in a
have
perfect world, blog post.
I each because I have three podcasts which I don't recommend, but each of them has a website that is the domain of the podcast name that is built through Podpage. And so that is the link because it's podcast your story or still becoming or the story of my pet. So that's the link I go and then on my pod page, not only can they get to my episodes, they can also get to my blog. And so inside pod page, it actually has an AI blog generator. It takes each episode and gives suggestions and then helps me build it. So I'm trying to go back and do more of the blogs and then send them to the blogs from pins because then in the blogs not only can they listen, they can grab freebies or my workshops or whatever I'm mentioning throughout the blog post. So I think Pinterest is going to make me do more of that because I
Mm.
wasn't doing it as much, but yeah, I think it's hard because it's like one link. We feel like sometimes it's hard for us to pick one, but it's also picking the best one, right? And we're more, and I do think links are good because it's not just they can click on your podcast from there or listen right there in the blog, but you can send them to other things that gets them on your email list.
It's true.
So we
Yeah,
weren't sure since we had to reschedule this event how many people were showing up live. So
it's
and I
true. So we're
jumped in and
excited you're
started
here.
asking Andi questions. But we'll step back and start over. So I want to thank Andi for being here and for being here again even after I had to cancel the original. And we're just
Life
gonna jump right
happens.
into it. I am gonna put in the chat her contact info, her podcast, and where you can follow her. And there also is a link. Is Pinterest right for you checklist? And that's a good place to start if you haven't been on Pinterest yet and you're trying to decide if it's somewhere you should hang out. So I know, Andi, you have some slides to share.
I do.
So let me make sure you can
I was
do
gonna
that.
say, I don't know if it's gonna let me. Oh no, it says no.
You should be able to now.
Oh, now it does. Okay, cool. Okay,
So
so
we'll just
truly,
jump right
oh,
in, and
yes.
Andi will do her presentation, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and
Yeah,
stuff after.
it's not that many slides. I don't like making that many slides, but this is kind of so the checklist goes a little bit deeper, but this is kind of like a broad, is Pinterest right for you? Let's do a first step to see if it's going to work. But first, just a little background. If this is for you if you keep seeing people talk about Pinterest and you wonder if it's good for you. You keep adding, this was me for a long time. You keep adding look into Pinterest to your to-do list, but like never follow through. And then you like the idea of using Pinterest, but you aren't sure if it will actually work for your podcast, which is a valid question. That's why we're here. So I have a couple of myths that I hear all the time on threads that I wanted to cover. The first one is Pinterest is dead. People are constantly telling me that Pinterest like doesn't work, or it's no one's there anymore. Like, why are you even talking about Pinterest? The truth is, there are 619 million monthly users, and that's it's actually growing. When I first put this like slide deck together, it was 600 million, and they've bumped up 19 million in the past. I think it's like every quarter. So in the past quarter, it went up 19 million, which feels truly, I did look it up, and I think there's like 3 billion people on Instagram. So, like, Pinterest is not as big as Instagram, but Pinterest, in my opinion, is better. And we'll get into that in a minute. But so there are a lot of people hanging out on Pinterest still. So there's that. The second one is Pinterest is only for food bloggers and DIY bloggers. That also is not true. And I know that for a fact because I am a Pinterest user. Like, like I scroll through Pinterest and I am not always looking for food stuff or DIY stuff. So, um, people use Pinterest for all sorts of things. One of my main ones is actually travel inspiration personally and book recommendations, which is why I put them on here. So if your podcast isn't about food or DIY, there is most likely still a spot for you on Pinterest. And then the third one is pins have to be beautiful to do well on Pinterest. That is for sure not true because not my pins are not like beautiful by any stretch. They just explain what people need to hear and then they can click on it to learn more. And that's and it's been working for me. So, also another myth. You just need to tell people what they're like. The pin just explains where they're going so that if they want to go there, they can click it. It doesn't have to be a beautiful vista of Scotland, even though I do want to go there someday. Um, Here are three reasons that I love Pinterest. I don't have to show up every day to appease the algorithm. Pinterest users are there to take action, not to be entertained, like Instagram and TikTok. And I can schedule out my content a month in advance with zero ramifications. Like I can, like back in December, I scheduled out all of my content because I was like, I just want to focus on like me and my kids and my like my family and hang out with my partner. And I don't think I touched Pinterest for like 3 or 4 weeks. And my show was still growing. Like everything was just chugging along because I had all of it scheduled ahead of time. So it really does work. These are the results that I have found from using Pinterest for a year. I started last March. And I started with just one pin a week. Like it wasn't even anything crazy, but now I'm up to one pin per day. And these are the results. So I've had a 74% increase in monthly downloads. I've gained 200, actually a little more than 200 email subscribers, and I have deleted Instagram off of my phone. For many reasons, but luckily, even though I feel like it was a little bit scary to delete it, I haven't seen any bad ramifications from it because of Pinterest. So that's been fun. And now I am all in on Pinterest. I've been able to do like Pinterest Academy to learn. These are my cute badges that I got from Pinterest Academy. I've been able to learn and these courses. So I knew a lot of stuff just from trial and error, but taking these courses have helped me to improve my Pinterest strategy and help my clients more, but also just figure out like what Pinterest because Pinterest does so much research to figure out what pins people click on, and they share all of that information in these courses. So it was a good chunk of, and luckily it was free. So if you want to do it, you can go do it, but it did take a lot of time. So there's that. But so I do know what I'm talking about because I have now gone through the process, not only of like just trial and error, but also I've gone through their thing and I still love it. So there you go. Um, okay, now we're gonna get into why Pinterest, or no, if Pinterest is right for your podcast. There's three main criteria that we're gonna go over today. But we can also talk through your specific podcast to see, because sometimes there are like little details that can make or break if Pinterest is actually going to be a good fit for you or not. And we can talk about that. Because I don't want you to waste your time on Pinterest. Like there's no point in that. So the three criteria we're going to talk about is, does it solve a problem? Is it evergreen? And does your audience match Pinterest's audience? So the first one is, does your podcast solve a problem? If your podcast is a how-to, it gives tips, it gives lists, guides, reviews, any sort of anything like that, then it would be a really good fit for Pinterest because people go to Pinterest to solve problems. Some examples, all three of these are ones that I listen to, is the Family Lab, which is like how to parent your children and like have a good house, which I desperately need. And then what should I read next? She just talks about books. I read a lot of books, so I really love a book podcast. And then Throughline is kind of more like a history podcast, but they look at it through the lens of like they take a topic and then they like go back in history to when it started and then go through it. So that one, I feel like the problem is just like, I don't know about this thing, so you're going to tell me about it. So that one, I feel like even a history podcast can do well on Pinterest. So I like to throw that one on there because most of the time people don't think that a history podcast can solve a problem, but I truly do think it does. It can, because you're learning something, and the problem is you didn't know it before. So there's that one. The second one is evergreen content. So most podcasts are evergreen in my experience, but there are some that aren't. So if your episodes will be useful to your listeners in 6 months or 2 years from now, then your podcast is evergreen. Some examples, it's actually almost too easy to come up with examples that are evergreen because most podcasts are evergreen. So here are some non-examples. The Newsworthy is a daily news podcast. So no one wants to listen to an episode that came out 6 months from now or 6 months ago, because that has already happened. So we don't really care about what happened 6 months ago. So that one's not a really good fit for Pinterest. ESPN Daily is like sports news, same thing. We don't really care what happened 6 months ago. And then Good Noticings is kind of like a pop culture podcast that like just reacts to what's happening in pop culture that week. Again, not evergreen, so not a good fit. So if that is how your podcast is, then Pinterest is probably not going to be a good fit for you. Um, but like I said, most podcasts are evergreen, which is one of the beauties of podcast. Um, oh yeah, I do have this for you if you want it. It's like plug and play pin phrases that make people click. I'm gonna have to, I thought I had it pulled up. I'm now realizing that I don't. So I might have to send it to you and you can put it in the replay. I'll look for it while we're answering questions though, because yes, this is such a good tool. Because sometimes it's just hard to figure out what to say or like how to phrase it on a pin, especially as you're getting started. So that is why I have that. Okay, the third thing, and I put it there so I wouldn't forget, obviously, and I still kind of forgot. It's fine. Um, the third thing is we want to make sure your audience matches Pinterest audience. So here are some stats. Pinterest audience is 70% women, like globally. So mostly women are on this podcast on this platform. About 30% of men are on this platform. So it's growing, but definitely mostly women are on Pinterest. And then the biggest country that's on Pinterest is the United States. But truly, the UK is pretty close behind the US and oh, now I'm not gonna remember. I think it was Australia was pretty close behind too for like percentage of population that's on Pinterest. So there's some things. And then specifically with the US, 40% of millennials, 46% of Gen Z, and then 40% of households with an annual income that's more than 150,000, which is a good stat. When I learned that stat, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like my business on here is a good idea. Like this makes sense for me. Okay, cool. So I will say, if your audience fits into all of these perfectly, that's amazing. Like I hope that that's the case for you. That's not in my experience, like this isn't mine exactly, but if you fit into most of the Pinterest audience, you can find your people. Because like I will say most of mine are millennials. So 40% of millennials. So like I feel like I'm doing okay there. And then women is my main. So I feel like that one is probably one of the main reasons that I do so well on Pinterest is just because my audience is women for the most part. So that's some info to keep in mind as you're figuring out if Pinterest is a good fit for you. So overall, this is it. So we can get into details, of course, but if your podcast solves a problem, is evergreen, and your audience equals Pinterest audience, then I think that Pinterest could be a really good fit for you. So there's some info. And oh, yes. Okay. I put this slide in here because I figured this would be helpful for anyone who wants to get started on Pinterest. These are pretty basic, but definitely things that need to happen. First of all, do a business account instead of a personal account when you start. And if you already have a Pinterest and you can convert it to a business account if you already have a personal account, or within your personal account, you can create like a second profile that is a business account. If you want to like keep your personal one separate, you can do that too. Use SEO keywords that are specific to Pinterest. So like you can, if you've ever looked for SEO keywords for your podcast, like a great place to start is Google, right? You just type in the words that you think are there and then it'll drop down and it'll tell you things. That's a great place to start for Pinterest too. It can be, but before you start like plugging in those keywords, you need to take those to Pinterest and put them in like the Pinterest search bar and do that because people search slightly differently on Pinterest than they do on other platforms. Which is probably the case for every platform, but I've noticed Pinterest is like, oh no, we want you to use these keywords, not the ones that you would use on Google. So, something to keep in mind. And then the last thing I'll say is choose a pinning cadence and then stick to it. So like I said, when I first started Pinterest, I was doing one pin a week. It was on Wednesdays, and every Wednesday I was putting out a new pin. And I just did one for that for whatever episode was coming out that week. And then slowly I just went up from there. So like I think a couple of months, maybe 3 months into doing one pin per week, I noticed that I was actually there were some pins that were taking off, and I was like, oh, I guess Pinterest is working. I'll up it to 2 pins per week. Like, but slowly and surely, I worked my way up to where I am now. But I would say start with something that feels very attainable to you because Pinterest likes consistency. So if that is just one pin per week, as you're figuring it all out, start there and then work your way up as because Pinterest isn't going to get mad if you do more pins. And truly, I will say Pinterest is not, you know how Instagram kind of like puts you in like view jail if you like don't show up for a week. At least that's how it's happened to me. Um, Pinterest is not the same. Pinterest is a very forgiving platform when it comes to that. So like if you have to take a month off because your life just got really hard and crazy, your view like your stats will go down in Pinterest just but mostly because you're not putting out content, not so much because Pinterest is mad at you. As soon as you start putting content out again consistently, your numbers will start to go up again. So,
And I
just
can
something to
say
keep in
that
mind.
is true because a couple years ago I did a lot of pinning for my pet podcast and had gotten up to in the thousands of monthly views. And then honestly, I had to figure out how to even get back into it. It'd been at least a year, probably longer. And I haven't put a new pin out still, and it's still at like 600 monthly views just from all the pins I had done before. So I
Dang,
think
good for
that
you.
really showed me that, yeah, you don't have to be in there every day. And I have noticed with Instagram a lot, like if I go a week without really posting or even being active, like my engagement goes down really far. So I love that about Pinterest.
Yeah. Yeah, Instagram is not my favorite. Um, for that reason, pretty much. I'm like, I don't have the energy or the like bandwidth to be on it on Instagram all the time. So I'm not anymore because of Pinterest. Hallelujah. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing because now we're just gonna answer all of your questions. And yeah, no question is too big or too small, also, because I feel like Pinterest is one of those that like the details matter. So like we
Right.
can get as minutia as you want to.
Yeah, and if Super Kate and Andrea, if you want to each go and explain what your podcast is about and then, ask any questions, that probably would be good context too.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
You
Well,
can go.
my podcast is Courage to be Visible, and it's mostly interviews. Occasionally, I do a solo interview, and it's about stories and case studies and examples and conversations about why visibility is so hard, particularly for female entrepreneurs, and how people have gotten
Oh,
past it.
sure. I love that.
And so I'm on episode, what am I? I think 24. I just
Okay,
launched in
okay, good for
December.
you.
So
I love that.
yeah. So like one of the things I've been doing, so I do Instagram Reels with clips from my podcast. Does something like that work on Pinterest, or should it be just
Like a
the
static
graphic?
pin. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is what I will say. Okay, I'm gonna say it depends, but I promise I'll explain. I feel like that's such a cop-out answer. It does depend though. So I have noticed, so I have a couple of clients that I do their pins for them, and I've noticed that pins that are like the split screen, right? When you're interviewing someone, it's like them and you, um, don't do very well in my experience. Um, the podcast that I was trying that out with is a personal development podcast. So it might work for more of an entrepreneurial podcast. So you could try it out and see. But I've noticed that people don't really love those. They just don't get as much traction. But if it's just one person in the video, those do better in my experience. So something to think about, like with captions on the bottom for sure. I use Descript most of the time when I do that, but I'm sure Riverside also has the same thing.
Yeah.
Like you can make a clip and then just put what's the word, captions on the bottom.
Yeah,
Those do pretty
Riverside
well.
does it automatically, but you can change
Oh.
the format so it only shows one person at a time who's talking so it doesn't split the screen, which
And
would help with
and
that.
same with StreamYard does it now
Oh,
too. I don't know about the changing if it's one or both.
Hmm.
Because I just started playing with that, so I don't know.
totally.
Yeah,
But
it may also depend on how you bring it in. Like on Descript, when I bring in Zoom, I can't change the format because it's Zoom. We're all recorded on one stream versus Riverside is recording on separate. So it does depend on that too.
that's true. I record with Squadcast, which is like
Yeah,
teamed up with Descriptor. I don't know. They bought them. I don't remember. But
yeah, they bought
yeah,
them.
so and that's made it easier for me. But like also, so if you ever have a solo episode, you could probably pull clips straight from the episode itself
Hmm.
and do it that way. Um, I will say static pins for me. So my podcast, I should have said this. My podcast is called Friendly Podcast Guide, and I help women podcasters grow their show. Specifically in ways that like aren't social media because I don't like using social media to grow my show, so I don't promote that kind of growth with my podcast, which is why I'm like such a proponent of Pinterest. Um, so what was I saying? So for me, as a podcast growth coach, pretty much static pins have actually been the ones that have been the best for me personally, at least right now with the way the Pinterest is acting. I feel like Pinterest ebbs and flows with like for a while they were like pushing video really hard. I feel like it was when TikTok first came out. So I feel like you could just put any sort of video up and it would do well because that's what they were pushing at the time. Now it's gone back to like videos are good for some and not good for others. Like with that same personal development podcast client, her videos do well. And every time I try to do a video, it just does not do well for me. So
Yeah.
I will
And I
say
could even
another, oh,
say my feed was like when I was scrolling through it the other day, it was like maybe 10-20% of my feed was video. Everything else was static images or a carousel of images.
that's
So
actually, yeah, what I was gonna
that
say
seemed to
is
be what I was getting pushed. That doesn't mean video can't do well, but it definitely told me I don't have to focus on that as much on Pinterest. I can just stick. And so what I've done is I've created a Canva template with like 5 variations. And now I'm just copying and pasting it for each episode to create the new set of pins. And then I'm going to go back and look at what does better. And then I can adjust the templates best on which ones are performing better than others. But photos of people seem to be really popular versus just an image with writing on it. So those are some of the things I've noticed so far.
totally.
It's
So this is
interesting.
what
Just while we're talking, I'm scrolling through my Pinterest and I've got on my feed 50% are video, but
Oh,
that's probably
interesting.
because of
What
what
you
I
talk
click
about.
on.
yeah, or like
Right.
what you like, yeah, what you like.
Yeah,
And I
so
do think it
that's
matters.
interesting.
I know with my pet one, I started doing videos, and people like that. If it was actually a video of an animal, if it was just a video of us talking, it wasn't as popular.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense, though. I'm not gonna
Right.
lie. Okay, I found the bonus, so it's just a link to a thing from Canva, but I just put it in the chat.
Okay.
I was like, I
Thank
swear
you.
I know where this is. So there's that. Those are the phrases. that you can use on pins that will help. It just helps people. It makes the pin feel a little bit easier to click on. It's like
Mhm.
just phrases that people usually click on.
And one of the things I noticed, because I bought Andy's Pinterest course, and I also set up Claude to work with me on the SEO part, and it's really easy to choose a title for your pin that's SEO rich, that you also literally just put the title on your pin. So you're not having to create multiple things. You're like, what title summarizes what I want people would click on, and you actually put that those words on the pin. And so it's just really making it easy for them to say, oh, I want to learn that, click. So I find it super easy to use in that way, unlike Instagram or Facebook, where it's like, you have to write out a whole description and then the image is something else. And like there's more layers to it, at least in my experience.
It's true. There is like a pin description section, which is kind of like a caption, but honestly, no one really reads that. That's not true. Not very many people read that. It's more so a way to just put more keywords in to help your people find the pin. But I will say, do not keyword stuff. Like you still want it to sound natural, because if it just is like a bunch of keywords, Pinterest is like, no, this is a bot, and it just like doesn't
Right.
send it very far. So oh, this is what I was gonna say about different types of pins. If you like when you have your Instagram stuff, if you have like a carousel or something, or like a weekly something that you do for your podcast, those seem to be doing pretty well on Pinterest right now too. It when you upload it into Pinterest, it is more like a video than it is like a static pin, because it flips the page for you, not the page, but like it goes to the next one for you. I think it gives like 7 seconds per carousel page
Right.
or whatever, however you say
Yeah,
that.
so you don't have to click on it. It just starts moving
Yeah,
for
it
you
will
if you're
just go.
looking
So I
at
feel
it.
like people will look at that because it's like, oh, it just changed. Like when they're like scrolling through their feed. So that's something that has been doing pretty well for some
So
of my clients as
carousels, should
well.
you resize them to make them taller for Pinterest, or can you use the same size that you've used on Instagram?
Truly, I feel like Pinterest used to care a lot about that. And if I'm being completely honest, I would try to make it longer, just because you're taking up more space, right? Then
Mhm.
like you're just on the feed bigger, which is the
And
goal,
you
right?
could
We just want
just
people to see it.
resize
But
it in Canva, and then
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
it doesn't really make it bigger. It just adds the background color to the whole length of it. That would be easy. I use Canva so much. I create one, like I create a podcast cover, resize it for YouTube, resize it for pins. It makes it so easy not to have to worry about it.
Yeah, Canva's my best friend. I love Canva.
Any other questions specific to your podcast that you thought of? Okay. SK, do you
Okay.
want to share your podcast or about to be your
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah. But I have to say first, Andy, love your shirt.
Thank you.
I can't, I'm not, I don't want to spoil the book, but I am so at like an epic moment near the end, and it's
Wait, you haven't
freaking,
finished yet? Oh my
no.
gosh.
And I'm honestly, I had to stop reading today because all I wanted to do was finish it. And I'm like, you have to
Wait,
write a
what book are you?
podcast episode.
Are you on the last book? Are you on Kingdom of Ash?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What
Oh
books are
my
you guys
gosh.
talking about? I have no idea.
Sorry, we're talking about Throne of Glass. It's like I'm like tearing up. It's like the best. It's such a good book.
So
I'm a
Sarah J. Maas, Maas, she wrote the
Mhm.
Court of Thorns and Roses series.
Yes.
This was like her first big series, wasn't it?
Yes, this one I
Throne
think
of
came out
Glass.
before, or at least the first book came out before Throne of Glass came out,
I'll
I
have to
think.
check it out.
The
Okay.
yeah,
It
it's
doesn't really matter.
romantasy,
Yeah,
man.
Gotcha.
Holy shit.
she's my favorite.
I like that. I like that romantasy. I haven't heard that term before. I
Oh,
like
really?
that.
Yes, it's like fantasy, but with a heavier romance in there too. But yeah, Manon is my favorite character in the entire series. So, and wait, now I have to show you. Abraxas is on
Yeah.
here too. So, I know, I know. He's the wyvern. He's it's you just have to read the books.
Yeah.
The books, there's so many. There's 10 or is it
Oh
8?
my gosh.
I think there's 8 in that. Oh, there's 8 in that series, but I actually bought them in a bundle on my Kindle, so I have no. It like it was like you're only 2% in for like 4 days in a row, and I'm like,
Oh, You're like,
how
how?
long are these? It's been epic and amazing. I love it.
Yes. Oh my
Love it.
gosh. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
funny,
Denim
there's
Grass
a
is the best.
Scottish company that I've been buying some clothes from called Snag Tights, and they have like tights with that series like
No
graphic
way.
on it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, or yeah. So I was like, oh, what is that? And it's like, oh, I remember this. So yeah, they've done a bunch of tights where they have like graphics related to them. And for the longest time, I go, what the heck is this?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And if you're
Now you
not
know.
a
Now you know.
huge romance person, that series has like the least amount of romance compared to her other
Yes.
ones.
Yeah.
So it's
And I would
more
say it's
fantasy,
yeah,
epic
it's much
fantasy.
more epic fantasy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
good.
So
Okay.
good.
Literally had to
Sorry.
I had to force myself to stop reading today because I had to get work done.
Uh, and it's
Um,
yeah, the last book is so intense.
yeah.
So it's just everything's coming together. It's a very big
Mhm.
book too. It's like this big.
Oh my
It's like
gosh.
gigantic. Yeah. But okay, sorry. So
Okay.
tell me
So
about your podcast.
Side note.
I'm Super Kate, and my podcast is called Connecting with Super Kate because most people are going to look for my name, and that's fine. It is so I'm a somatic life coach, and the podcast is geared towards the overwhelmed, burnt out, like caregiver, female entrepreneur, working mom, who is on the constant repeat of "I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine."
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she knows something can change and be better. So as exhausted as she hasn't figured out how to navigate the change to make because that's just another list
Too.
Yeah,
thing.
it's another thing to do. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's primarily going to be solo episodes, but the cadence in theory right now is solo guided meditation, solo guest.
Oh,
One
cool.
like
Yeah.
so that's 4 weeks worth. Uh I had decided I was gonna now release on the 15th. And then
Nice.
this morning I
Okay.
was like, no, I'm gonna push it to the 21st. And then my friend who's doing some website stuff for me just sent me an incredible website shift. And so I'm like, I have to fucking do the 15th now. I'm just gonna do the 15th
Good for you.
because she put in so much effort so quickly because I gave her the 15th deadline.
Sure.
So yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
whatever I have to start is whatever I have to start. I'm no
Yeah.
longer like,
Yep. You
but I
just gotta
have
start,
the,
and then
You
yeah,
do. You just have
it'll
to start.
go.
Like, and
yeah,
honestly, your first episode's not going to be your best one. And just going into it like that, you're like, oh, this just going to go up from here. Because like, I refuse to listen to my first episode anymore. So like,
Oh, my the first 5 episodes of my pet podcast that where I started, I didn't edit at all. It was dogs were barking, we were getting interrupted. It was a mess. So yeah,
yeah,
we
awesome.
all
it's
have to
just
start.
yeah, and it's better to just start than not, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So that's so awesome though. Okay, good for you.
yeah. So
Um,
I don't use Pinterest. I am
okay,
not somebody who it's like overwhelming to me, so I never started. But I
sure.
knew years ago that I should be because the business coach I was following, who is a Pilates instructor, she
Oh,
was
sure.
she was getting actually people from Pinterest to sign up for her stuff because of the pins and the back and forth SEO, blah blah blah.
Yeah, totally.
So um w- given that I am not a Pinterest person, I'm going to give myself until like mid-May to kind of navigate this, but I understand the benefit of it. Um, I
I
think
think
I'm
yours
more
would
of
be
a,
perfect because so much of what I see in Pinterest is, self-care, betterment, women, support, women empowerment, that kind of stuff. It's going to be more about you figuring out what the structure is so that when they're clicking on pins, they're going to places that are going to help grow the podcast and grow your business. And so I just kind of started because I had enough episodes already. I could just create a bunch of pins and put them out to see what people would, click on. But
Mhm.
I'm also at the same time building more of the back end of if I'm sending them to this blog post, have multiple episodes mentioned, have a freebie they can get, or have something that's a low ticket so that when they go to that page, there's options.
So perhaps would it be better that I give myself really some time, like the first few months, just focus on getting more podcast episodes out and in the back end ready to go. And then I have the option, then I can start focusing in because I will have more content to then pin.
Well, I don't think, I mean, I would say, and I'll let Andy answer too. I would say I don't think you have to have a ton of episodes to start, but your podcast goal is to get the people listening. And so you want to have that process set up and know you're being consistent before you take on another step of your process.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like because especially as you're starting, I would say get your like basics down of like like I don't know, like you just gotta figure out your workflow, whatever that's gonna be. And if it doesn't feel overwhelming, I would again, only if this doesn't feel overwhelming, I would add just making one pin about each episode into that workflow as you're
Okay.
starting, because making one pin takes maybe 5 minutes. Like it's
Yeah.
Okay.
not. Especially because if you use Canva, like they have pin templates that you can just like be like, oh, I can fit that phrase into that template, and you can click it and then change the colors so that most of them are really boring, if I'm being honest, the Canva templates. So you have to like
Yeah.
zhuzh them up a little bit. They're all like beige. But after you like it's not hard. And then you can even just like, I don't know, stick them in a folder if you're
Hmm.
not ready to like do everything else with it, but then you've just got them for each episode and you're just used to doing it. I would say that might be a good idea, but if that feels overwhelming, then yeah, come back to it once you kind of have your like podcast episode workflow figured out.
Okay. Uh, first, at least, um, okay.
You're good.
Starting over. Okay. So Julie's seen like my thumbnails that for across the board that my friend who also did the website stuff did, and they're fucking epic. And I love
That's
every,
awesome.
oh my
And you
gosh,
can
they're
just use those in
gorgeous.
your pins.
So, okay. So should I have her resize them or
You you can
restructure
resize
the,
them yourself in Canva.
okay. Okay.
You can
Pretty
just go.
easily, yeah.
Do you have access to those in Canva, or are they all just
Yeah.
downloaded
Yeah.
images?
I
Okay.
have the whole folder.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
literally just go to resize and pick Pinterest pin, and it'll open it in a new one in that size, and then you can adjust anything you want to. And I can
Okay.
show you that's basically what I've done with a lot of my pins is they're just either my photo or the cover image of the podcast into a pin template.
Okay. Okay. And then second, what my thumbnails look gorgeous. My typical background, well, this is what I look like almost virtually every day. My jewelry may change a little bit, my hair might be down. I always wear a black tank top. This is my thing. I'm going to be
Love it.
filming in front of a wall that looks like this, that's just right there.
Sure.
So it's very like you're not going to see a whole lot of, if you're looking through a bunch of versions of me, they're going to kind of all look the same.
Oh,
On
so
a
you mean
site like
like
Pinterest, is that going to make a difference?
not really.
Okay.
For the most part, people find Pinterest content either on their like on the page that it's like their version of a For You page. Like when you pull up Pinterest, it's like just here are some pins that we think you might like. They
Right.
either find you there or they find you in search. Um, I don't think they have numbers on this, but not very often are people actually going to your profile. And even if they do go to your profile, it's not like Instagram where it's just like all of your posts. They're actually, what's the word? Organized into boards. So
Right.
like
Oh,
it will show you the boards that you've put your pins
Right.
under. If that,
It's
okay.
not like your Instagram profile where then you see all of their posts and reels and then you can tell if they're all the same or something. You can't really tell. And from what I've found, I'm just making versions of the same thing and I may adjust a color or two, but I don't think it matters because
I was gonna
people
say,
are
oh, sorry.
finding one pin at a time versus seeing your whole feed.
Okay.
I'm gonna just share my screen and just show you what my Pinterest looks like, just so you can see, because I feel like sometimes it's hard to see what that is.
Yeah.
So this is my Pinterest. You can see more back end stuff, but like, so these are all of these blue ones are the ones that people can see. All of these are just like my personal ones that I have locked, so no one else can see them. But like,
Hmm.
so when they come to that when they come to my profile, if they come, which is not often, they'll see how to grow a podcast and they can click that. And then you can see all of the pins that are in here. And see, like some of them are similar, but like it doesn't really people will just be looking to be like, "Oh, that's what I need," or whatever. It's not
Mhm.
for the most part. So like when you look, let me see. Can I go to I'm just trying to get back to Pinterest. Now it's not going to let me. Just like I'm trying to show you like the like a whoop, never mind. I just want to show you like a for you, but it's not working. So here we are.
I'll pull mine up and see if it
Okay,
lets
you
me.
pull yours up.
If I could just jump in, like, um, I wear really bright colors on my stuff, so that's how I stand out. But
Oh,
if
I
like
love
you,
it.
I know people who wear like the same thing for everything. But one of the things that I do is whenever I take pictures, like I'll just take my phone and put it on timer. And I used to do like, kind of the pose things. And now what I do is I always like set the timer and then I'll like dance and I'll do weird things and then whatever I'm doing when they can't, and those always end up being the best pictures.
Mm,
Like when I used to like try to pose, I just looked like I had a stick up my butt. But like when I started like just trying to be goofy, those actually, so
Mhm.
you could do something like, and then you could take like 20 pictures one day and then just rotate through them because if you're always dressed in black, it doesn't matter. Like me, I'm every day I'm a different bright color, but if you're dressed all the same, you could just do them all and just rotate through them.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. And you
Let
know
me
how
show
like
you what
oh,
my home feed looks like. So if I open and look, there's Andi. Hey. But
cute.
you can even see
How
like
fun is
Jenna
that?
Kutcher. She has a lot of these that are just plain. And so you can see, it's not, some people are just plain colors, plain background, just a woman and a mic. So it doesn't have to be super fancy. And I bet that if I went to Jenna's, you know, same thing. I mean, you can see she uses the same color spectrum kind of across everything. So what I have found is Pinterest doesn't care if you're using the same color or even the same image in different ways
Yeah.
because it's really more about what it says or what is on it that makes people want to stop and look at it. But you can see it's a huge variety of what people are pinning. Even just some pictures of themselves versus something you can tell is more of an actual pin graphic and things like
Yeah.
that.
And I will say one thing that I've noticed for like for podcasters specifically, is you can do like if you had a really great quote of something that you said or your guest said, having just like a quote graphic, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people like to pin quotes for like vision boards or whatever. So I feel like that can also be a really good thing
Yeah, like this
to,
one right here.
oh, there you go.
This
Yeah, totally.
this is a podcast, Candice Rodarte Gratitude Geek, and so this is what it is.
Oh,
It's just a a quote from her guest, I assume, and of
I think
course,
that's a safe assumption, yes. So
and
like
then this is
that's
another
something
one
else.
from her too, which is literally just her cover art, not even resized.
There you go. Yeah,
So
it's a little bit shorter. But like you can see here, like some of them are really long and some of them are shorter. So like if you didn't want to resize, you could probably get away with it,
yeah, I
honestly.
think
Okay.
that's what I was surprised to see was there was more variety than when I was here a year or so ago in terms of the size where you can tell people are just and who knows I will say Candace says she has not blown up on Pinterest. She's not sure what she's doing wrong. So maybe she needs to resize or it's more SEO for her, right? So I and I'm surprised even some people put in just very basic
I know.
photos too.
It is kind of funny.
So
But truly,
it's
I feel like those are like the vision board people. They're like, maybe
yeah.
you'll put it on a vision board. I
And I think
definitely
for
do
me,
Pinterest vision
I'm
boards, so
trying a variety just to see what people respond to. And so I'll share again so you can see. Not saying this is right or wrong. It's just kind of me creating some and testing it. So if I go to
which is
my
like the best way to do it, in my
these
opinion.
are a bunch of the pins I've created so far. So some of them are just my cover with the title, and some of them are other back end photos or a photo of me. And you can see 11, 8, 9, all of them are getting views. And so over time, I'll be able to see which versions people like better. And then I'll just do more of those versus others.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say is having making sure that your words like you had Julie, like making sure your words are big enough that you can see it even on a phone, because a
Right.
lot of people are on Pinterest on their phones, so you just want to make sure that the words are big enough that people will actually be able to read what you are putting on your pin. Because sometimes, and that the font, you want to make sure the font is clear too. Sometimes they'll use
Yeah.
like curly Q font. I'm like, I
And
don't
that,
I can't
is
do that.
something when I created my first few, I actually put them into Claude and say, okay, here's what I've created for this pin you've helped me write. And then he would say, make it bigger or make that different or have something that ties them all together. So it was also good to have somewhere to get a little feedback on it. And
Totally.
and also Claude is very nice to me and gives me lots of compliments. So I like
Oh,
him
really?
better
See,
than
Claude
chat.
is like super critical, not in a bad way, like,
Yes, yes.
but like more so
I've
for
not
me, I
used
feel like
Claude
chat was
much.
not.
I just started using it because of all the OpenAI chat GPT issues. I'm moving away from that. So I'm
Mhm.
migrating all of that info into Claude because Claude is a better company in general. But I will say so far, I like Claude better. It listens to me, it remembers what I tell it. I'm not having to remind it over and over again not to say things in a certain way. And Andy showed me how to create a project and where to put instructions. So then anything you do in that project, it's always referring back to those instructions. And so that has
Okay,
really
cool.
helped me, especially with pins and SEO, because like I gave it that prompt and then we set it up and then it's able to just keep generating for me.
It is really
Andy, what's
nice.
your Pinterest?
Let me just put it in here. It's really hard to find. I,
I was
honest,
surprised it was hard to find too.
truly, it's actually hard to find anyone. The best way to do it is actually just to Google it, Pinterest friendly podcast guide, but I just put it in the chat. I don't know why, but it's truly hard to find any Pinterest
Yeah,
profile
I had a
across
hard
the
time
board.
even finding my pet one in my other account
I
searching for it. It was
I
weird. I'm
know it
like,
is so
but that's
funny.
the name of it. Why isn't it coming up? But then I put
Yeah.
my name in and I got several pins from people who have pinned me from being on their podcasts. So
Hmm.
it is a different function than like Instagram. When you put someone's name in, their Instagram pops right up. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem to do that as much in
Pinterest doesn't
Pinterest.
care as much about your profile as it
Yeah.
does the pins that you're creating, which is kind of nice if I'm being honest. Like,
Right.
but
Because
So
but
it's
that
just a
also
different vibe.
shows you that that's not the basis of the algorithm. The algorithm really is about the pin titles and the SEO and what people are
Yeah.
searching for versus certain people's profiles.
Yeah, Pinterest is much more of a search engine than it is a social media platform.
I find the
okay,
same
so
thing on
it does.
YouTube, depending on what people have their name on their YouTube channel, that sometimes it's hard to
Oh,
find people. And so I think it's a similar kind of search thing.
I think so too.
So Pinterest doesn't uh uh the opposite of reward. Um it doesn't screw you over
Penalize?
be
Yeah.
yeah, there we go.
I got you.
By not being on it, like you you're just rewarded if you put stuff up there.
Yep.
It has
You
nothing to
don't
do
have
with
to
you
engage
having
with
like
it.
15 boards yourself that you're okay, cool.
No. And truly, so I schedule out my pins. I do at least a week at a time. So like I haven't been on Pinterest since Monday. What day is it?
And all
Wednesday.
the stuff you saw, I worked with Andy. I think I just created my Pinterest less than 2 weeks ago, and I spent a
Nice.
day or two pinning. And so I haven't really done much except once or twice go in and look to see if everything's posting like I thought it would. So all of those views are naturally happening. It has nothing to do with me engaging there. I just go in and set up the pins and schedule them. So it is definitely a hands off, kind of like YouTube. Like you don't have to go into YouTube and engage with other people's channels for your channels to get views. So I
Yeah.
find it to be the same kind of idea. And I do think that there is some similarity in SEO with YouTube and Pinterest because they're both how to search engines. So it's the same thought process. You might change the wording a little bit from YouTube to Pinterest, but for the most part, it's the same idea of what people are searching for versus you just getting pushed into someone's feed like on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, totally. Like Pinterest, like I said, back when like in December, when I was like, I don't want to have to deal with marketing for the next month, I just made like 30 days worth of pins and scheduled them all out. And Pinterest has like a pin scheduler within Pinterest. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to like use a third party service or anything.
It's really easy
Um,
to use.
it's so easy to use. Like there's just a calendar drop down, you pick the day and the time.
Yeah.
And so
Do
yeah, I
you
just scheduled out an entire month's worth of pins and then didn't touch it until January. So that is one of my favorite parts is that it's kind of a set it and forget it. I will say Pinterest, you do grow. I guess I feel like you kind of grow slow everywhere, if I'm being honest. I feel like the more that I'm like, it's a snowball effect. Like the truth is, it's kind of a snowball effect everywhere. But with Pinterest, it usually takes a month or two for your pins to really start gaining traction. And then usually between like 5 and 6 months is when you start to really see pins start to take off regularly. And now that I've been consistently doing it for a year, I feel like I can really see like Pinterest just knows exactly who I am and knows exactly who to send it to. And then people click and do all of the things now that I've been there for a while.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not like a overnight viral anything, but honestly, it was totally worth it for me because I just don't think about marketing nearly as much as I used to because of social
Right.
media. So,
Well, and I think, both of you guys are newer podcasters. And so any way you can help grow without having to spend a ton of time being active somewhere is huge. And I will say personally, early on, Instagram helped me grow my podcast. It doesn't anymore. I really find very little engagement from Instagram connecting to my podcast. I think because now it's become such a podcast pusher. Like in my feed, it's other podcasters and ads for other podcasts for me to discover. It's so much of it. There aren't a lot of people going from there to podcasts. And so, I think I'll probably, once Pinterest, if it starts working for me, I'll probably spend most of my time there versus other platforms because, yeah, I can talk about my podcast there and that's great, but I don't see a conversion to listens or downloads from there directly.
And then, so like with Instagram, if Julie and I did a podcast together, each of our respective profiles would be listed as the profile, like a collaborator or whatever. Does
Mhm.
Pinterest do something similar?
not in like an individual pin. If there's someone that you are doing, if you're like, I don't know, you're having them on your show a lot or whatever, you could do like a joint
Co-hosting.
board. Like you can have a board that both you and they own or like and then you can put all of your stuff there. Um, but that's probably the closest thing. There isn't really like a collaborator like there is on Instagram.
Because the whole point of the pin is for them to click the link and go listen or to the blog or wherever you're sending them. That it isn't about tagging other people in it. It's about them seeing this and going, "Ooh, I want to learn this," and it'll send you to where you. So it really is more about traffic to your podcast, to your website, to wherever you're sending them.
Yeah, and truly like there is technically followers on Pinterest, like people can follow your board. Um, but that's re mostly a vanity metric. Like it really doesn't matter who's following you.
Yeah,
In
your
the
views are
end,
more important than your followers.
yeah, people
But
are
I
gonna
did
find you
go and I
via
found
search.
Andy's and I found Candace's and a few other people. I've been on their podcast and followed them because I'm like, it's the same content. So it's okay for me, to be fed that because then I can see it, in my feed and we're talking about similar things.
That's true. And it will pop like you will pop up more for people that follow you.
Right.
But truly like some of the people that I follow that I don't like ever interact with their stuff, I just don't see as much of it anymore. Like if I followed them 10 years ago when I first started Pinterest, but I don't actually like interact with any of their pins, I really don't see very many of them.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter quite as much as it does on Instagram or TikTok or whatever.
Any other questions, anybody? We're almost out of time.
do you create a board specifically for your podcast, or do you put them depending on like have boards and you just put the episodes depending what the topic is?
That's a good question. So for me, because I have a podcast that is literally about podcasting, my whole thing is just about my podcast pretty much and they're like my business and my podcast are so interwoven that it just works for me. So I have boards that are just that I put episodes into into all of them pretty much. Like I do have one board called Friendly Podcast Guide. That's like my go-to if it doesn't fit anywhere else. But I also have like like podcasting for beginners, like how to
And I can show
market your
you how
podcast.
I set up mine. It was really more about the SEO behind my podcast and what Pinterest likes.
Yes.
So I do have somewhere where all my pins are. But I started with, podcasting tips for women, how to start a podcast guest tips, podcast launch tips. And then I added these women's empowerment, women's stories because my second podcast, which is women's stories, it's still related because I mostly have podcasters on that, but it's specific to women versus how to grow, visibility. So I really use Claude using the SEO I had found, which is good for me, to help me create the boards and then figure out which, pins go in which boards. But honestly, it's kind of interchangeable for some of my episodes because I'm talking about all of this. But some episodes I talk more about guesting versus starting versus general podcasting tips. So that's kind of how I did it. And then when you go into each one, there is a little description in the board, which is where you can get more SEO in. And then it'll show any pins you have in that board.
Yes, to everything Julie just said. Yes. I will say, so when you do your SEO research, for Pinterest, you'll use those SEO keywords like everywhere on your profile. So like in your name, in your description, right there, in your board titles, and but also in your pin titles and your pin descriptions. Um, you want them all over. And I will say, I still only do one episode a week. Well, and I take seasonal breaks, so like I'm literally for 3 months, I just don't put new episodes out. And I will just pin old content, like old episodes that are doing well. Um, and like I usually do 5 to 7 pins per episode. So like it's not like one pin gets one episode and then I have to like figure out more content.
Right.
Like I'll just do like 5 to 7 pins about one episode. So it's not, so it's slightly less overwhelming that way, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I've been doing, I only did a couple episodes so far, but I did like 3 to 5. Some of them had more because they were longer and there was more content to pull from. But like I
Totally.
said, I'm just using my covers or images of me. But I did start pulling my other one in because I did a whole episode about books by women authors, and I know Pinterest loves
Oh,
books,
cool.
so I am gonna go in
Yes,
and do some pins for each book, just because that'll give me a different, connection versus the other ones.
totally. Love it.
I like pinning, and
I'm
it's
so
much
glad.
easier now with AI because I don't have to stare at a blank page and come
Oh,
up with
yeah.
all the words.
Well, and that
And
is definitely, I use Claude to come up with pin titles and pin descriptions. I don't usually use exactly what Claude gives me, but it's like a jumping off point for me of like, okay, I like this pin title, but I don't like this word, so I'll switch it out or whatever. And that has
right,
made it so much faster.
yep,
I can't imagine trying to write
I know.
10, I guess 7 pin descriptions.
But I will say I've found it's easier using it for Pinterest than when I've tried to use AI for like Instagram and Facebook because
Hmm.
I feel like it just doesn't feel right. I don't know if that makes sense. Like the way they write descriptions for different platforms feels different than when it's just like focused on one. And I do think Pinterest is more of like writing blogs or writing newsletters, like that's kind of the way you write them. So it is interesting to kind of see the difference in the different platforms.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Andi, thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge and answering all of our questions. And
Pinterest is definitely has
for those of
there's a lot
hopefully
there.
people are watching this, I will put this on my YouTube channel so people can watch the replay. And, maybe after we all get started pinning a lot, we'll bring Andi back in for our next level
Ooh,
questions on
yeah, that'd be
Pinterest.
fun. I love it. I feel like, yeah, there's always, maybe not always, there's just a lot to go over and like learn and grow. So I feel like you don't ever want to be overwhelmed though, especially as you're starting. So hopefully this didn't
Right.
feel overwhelming. And
No,
if it
this
did,
was
I'm
good.
so sorry.
No,
That's
this
No,
not the
was
it's
a
goal.
good
great.
breakdown.
Okay,
No,
good.
very good.
Oh, I'm
Okay,
so
well,
glad.
thank you guys for so much for being here live with us. And thank you, Andi, again for coming after we had to reschedule. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot of help out of this. So I appreciate all of you, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much. It was so
Bye.
fun. Bye.